Hi everyone, I'm Divya and this is Uplift, a show where you meet everyday women being everyday phenomenal. And today I have two phenomenal guests with me on my show. One, you probably remember from my first episode, we have Melissa with us again, who is my co host this time, like I promised. And Melissa has brought Audrey with her today, who is my friend as well. But we're going to talk about Audrey as Melissa's shared connection today and why Audrey's in the show and just get to know Audrey a little bit better. So, welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Again.
And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to join you both.
It's very exciting to have you, Audrey. You will be the first episode that will actually show the chain of upliftment that I'm looking to basically build with this show. So really, thank you for doing this with us. I think this will be great, and there's going to be a lot of good conversation and a lot of fun things to learn about you. Which I mean, I've known you for a while, but I feel there's still so many things that I need to learn about you. And I'm sure so does Melissa. So let me actually get started with Melissa. And Melissa, you can come in then. So Melissa, do you want to talk about how you met Audrey and why you decided to bring her on the show? What is it about Audrey that you told me that, yep, Audrey is the one that needs to come on this show with me as my shared connection? Just tell us, enlighten us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited, Audrey, that you could come, and I'm looking forward to being the interviewer after I finish with my guest, my guest part of answering a question. So I talked about the meetup group that I do, which is the Craft Cocktails Club here in DC, and I met a lot of really amazing women through that group. But one of the most important connections that I've made and one of the most important friends that I've made out of that group is Audrey. So,
Excuse
Audrey,
me.
I said one of. One of. So Audrey was not at the very first of the meetups, but she started coming pretty early on in the meetup group. And so at that time, I was trying to make new friends and find a new social group and really explore what being part of a social life in DC looked like. And so Audrey started coming to a lot of the meetups, and a couple of the reasons I kind of gravitated towards Audrey is she is sometimes a little intimidating, very accomplished,
Wow.
very accomplished, very smart, very professional type woman that I think a lot of women could look up to. So she's a doctor, so Dr. Audrey, which can be like, oh wow. She's just I am inspired by that, and enjoy talking to her and enjoy how she is with that. Something else that I think connected me to Audrey is also an introvert. So it's helpful for me to be around other people that have figured out how to have a social life and be an introvert in DC. So that's something that I think connects us and that we have definitely bonded over. She's also beautiful and kind and warm and giving, and
yes, she's more.
she's just an incredible person to be around. And when you're talking about upliftment, I think Audrey, she does that for our friend group. So that is why I thought she would be the perfect guest for our first chain interview.
Oh my goodness.
That is so true. Audrey's going to start crying now.
I am. This is so nice of you to say. And I would say, same for both of you. You really uplift me. So I'm very excited to be here with you both today.
Uplifting.
Yes.
So Audrey, let's talk a little bit more about you and your journey. So would you want to share with us just what path did you take, or what path were you on and like where you are now, what brought you here, and just like give us a view because you're originally from Ghana, you've lived in the US for a very long time, and that's got to be different, right? So there have been like more intersectionalities in your journey that if you want to share with us, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, as you said, was born in Ghana, but I moved to the U.S. with my family when I was very young. I was 7. And so I grew up in New York, in the suburbs of New York City.
Wow.
But I probably a pretty typical immigrant story in that, my parents came here. There was some political unrest in Ghana at the time, and so kind of came here for just better, safer opportunities. But my parents also came from a very educated background, I would say. My dad was a professor, and a lot of my family back in Ghana is academic, and so I think that was one of the driving factors for them coming here was also to ensure that we could continue our education. And so I think that was kind of probably drummed into our heads, probably similar with a lot of immigrants. So always worked hard in school, because that was sort of that was taught to us as the way to move forward in life. And so I think that's probably one of the things that drove me, and just coming here and kind of culturally adjusting. That's also interesting. I think it's been sort of a continuous journey with that. And I think when you immigrate as a child, you can get to a place where you don't fully fit in either culture. And so that has its challenges. But on the flip side, I've also tried to kind of be in a place where I try to understand a little bit about, both of the cultures, and also just kind of being an outsider in general. I think that helps me kind of fit into different groups, because I think I kind of learned to adapt early on as a child, and so I think in different situations, I think that makes me very kind of adaptable.
That's amazing.
I love how you found a very positive out of what could be something traumatic and very difficult to deal with, which I'm sure it was, but you've managed to turn it into an asset of yours. That's quite amazing.
I do want to, just circle back to just something you just said about immigrating as a child. Um, I feel immigrants generally have that same experience, whether they are, first gen or they're second generation. Um, I moved here when I was 26, and I'm constantly in between cultures. And I would think that kids who are born and raised here as well, but their parents are not originally from here, even they go through a lot of like identity crisis or issues where they constantly feel between the two cultures. So it just resonates with me, and I feel like the struggle is real. Which if you're not an immigrant, you're not gonna really understand that piece, that feeling that you cannot let go of that missing, the craving of wanting to be back in your country, and um, wanting to be like taking advantage of opportunities here and making a life for yourself in some other cities. And for a lot of us, like your parents are back in Ghana, my parents are back in India. It is so hard. It's like a constant everyday reminder that you're thankful for the opportunities, but there is a part of you that is always going to be back home, and there's nothing will ever fill that gap. So I completely, like what you just said, like completely resonated with me.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting, sort of the, commonalities, but slight differences between sort of immigrating younger and older. I mean, I think for me, I figure that you and others who came when they're older are much more rooted in sort of, your home country. Whereas sometimes when I go,
Yeah.
I mean, we still call it home, but I go back and they look at me as American, as an
Really?
outsider. Oh yeah, no, definitely. But, and I didn't really live there. I didn't grow up there. So I can understand that. But then here also, I'm mostly American. I mean, I call myself a Ghanaian American. So I grew up here, mostly American, but my parents weren't Americans. So I did grow up with all of I mean, I had very strong Ghanaian influences because my parents were Ghanaian. So I think it's sort of a balance of how much your parents and sometimes the diaspora here continues to influence those who are first generation or even beyond.
Right.
Being between two countries to a certain degree and having been born somewhere and then living most of your life here has obviously had a major impact on who you are as a person. And I love some of the things that you were saying about how that shaped how you react to things and how you can kind of navigate the world. Do you feel like there are other major life experiences? I know this is very broad, but is there anything else that you think has had a major impact on who you are as a person and how you see yourself in the world that you would like to share?
I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing, but it definitely has shaped my my life and my interactions in different ways. I would say it's definitely impacted my my career path because growing up, I always gravitated towards science. I love biology, but I also knew I wanted to do something that would impact people back home, as we say, and so I always was drawn to trying to figure out how to impact health and global health, really, because for me it's personal in a way. I mean, it seems somewhat altruistic. Oh, I work in global health, and but for me it is personal because it's it's my family. It's growing up, my parents would talk constantly about my grandmother having malaria or being sick from something or other, and for me that was something that I thought, malaria's been around forever, why is that still a problem? And so I think I was just drawn to trying to address unmet needs like that, and particularly in low and middle income countries where there's not necessarily a commercial market for developing drugs for those countries. And even when there are drugs, like for tuberculosis, that's another disease that a lot of people say, oh, that still exists. Even when there are drugs available, there's not the funding to get it to the people who need it. So that really drives me and my work. That's what is I guess that's a great thing about having a career that you have a passion for, because it's not just a job. It's about really trying to have an impact on people who need it around the world.
How so this was when you were already here and you were growing up, but it sounds like you were so connected with the country that you came from and surrounding areas, um, that you were able to find your passion through that. It is so impressive that the career path you follow today um, is where your passion is, and that's not available to a lot of women, and not a lot of women are not able to like pinpoint what their fashion is, even if the choices might be like available to you. So it's really impressive. What how did can you just tell us about having a passion and then actually making a career out of it? They're like two very different things, right? Right. So what experiences, or like how did
Yeah.
you, what was your thought process, and how did you
Yeah.
methodically come to where you are today, where you're actually making an impact in global health policy?
Wow. So, so looking back and in interviews, I always make it sound very methodical and planned out, but a lot of it was also kind of, as life is, somewhat random, or you sort of try and make the most out of situations that you find yourself in. So interesting. As I said, I always loved biology. So growing up, I probably would have said my passion was science. And I wanted to become a researcher. I remember, oh my gosh, I wanted to win a Nobel Prize, and like that.
It's still early, Audrey.
I'll put that right on the list. No, but that was where my career goals were to become a scientist. I did, as I said, kind of have that desire to try and help people back home, health wise. So in the beginning, I thought, well, if I become a scientist, then I might want to start my own like biotech company and make sure that like we're actually making the drugs for the people who need them. So that was sort of my kind of far down the road kind of dream. But along the way, things change, and as you said, sometimes realizing, well, there's a couple things. One, there's a lot of challenges, particularly for women in science. That's a whole conversation that we could have. But there were some challenges there, and I think I also realized along the way that I probably didn't love it enough to go through all of those challenges, and that what I really wanted was at the end of the day to be having an impact in health. So I think that's one thing, is trying to figure out what your real dream and passion is, and realizing that at the end of the day, it didn't matter exactly how I did it, but I wanted to have an impact on health. But again, it's taken a while in terms of building my career here in DC. So I started off working in domestic health, which is also great. But I sort of knew that I wanted to end up in global health policy, and just kind of slowly work my way there through different jobs. It's definitely challenging, but I think just kind of taking one step at a time and learning what you can from each job along the way, for me, has gotten me closer each step to what I really wanted.
So, what's your general way of dealing or coping with challenges or stressful situations, whether it's a day long or a few days long? And is there any advice that you would want to share with my viewers and listeners, for someone who's in a similar situation and trying to make their way into maybe a patriarchal world, or just trying to work on their passion and grow their business?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of things. One is trying to definitely find a good support system of friends and family who will have your back no matter what. That's very, very important. And so I think as I said, one of the times when I found myself gravitating to the craft cocktails group was when I was trying to start my own business. And so just having kind of an outlet and a group of people that you can talk to, whether it's just on a social,
Right.
social level, or on a more deeper level, when you do really need a friend to talk to. And then I think trying to find, mentors and people who actually will be able to believe in you and support you. And it's not always easy, but I think trying to find that, one or two people that you can connect to who have either done what you've done, or have gone through a similar path that you want to follow. I think that's great. And I do try to, when younger people contact me, I do try and make time for those conversations. I know it was really important when when I was trying to figure out my path. So I try to do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, those are all really good tips. I feel like I've done some of them, but I'm gonna maybe try to do the mentor thing a little bit better because I don't know if I have kept mentors in my life. So
yeah, no, it's hard. I do think it's hard, particularly for women or particularly for minorities. You don't always have somebody who you can see yourself in. But it's and I think it doesn't necessarily have to be one person, and I do find myself along this, particularly when I was in science, I realized that there are very few women in science, and so my mentors had to be men. And so I think realizing that you don't necessarily have to connect with that person on every level, but find something that something in their path that you can that can serve as sort of a positive role model for you, I think.
So, Audrey, when you mentioned that one of your coping mechanisms, you actually found a supportive group through craft cocktails. And then at the beginning, we both talked about how we were both more introverted and finding a place where you can feel like you belong in a social group, because social still important for introverts. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your experience being social and having a social life and being in DC and how you've managed to do that as an introvert, which can be a challenge?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say, and I think I started talking about this a little bit earlier, but so I hope it's not going to sound repetitive, but I think particularly before craft cocktails, meetup was my kind of like, if I wanted to go out on a, Friday or Saturday and didn't really have close friends, or people are busy, I could always find a meetup. But I feel like I still struggle to actually make friends, because moving from seeing people, once in a while or even on a somewhat regular basis to actually meeting outside of meetup, that was always a challenge for me, because it's kind of nerve-wracking to say, do you want to hang out with me,
do you want to be my friend?
Why do you have to make it sound so creepy? Do you want to hang out with me?
I do feel creepy. That's part of the problem. It does feel creepy when you're do you want to be my friend and play with me?
Exactly. Takes you back to like being on the playground and yes. So it is. It's challenging for us introverts. At least it was for me. And so I think part of it is just sort of pushing past that and reaching out, to one or two people, and then I think also, when I did start going to craft cocktails more regularly, then I think it became easier because I would see people more than once or twice, so that helped.
Yeah. So it's one of my goals in life to make it so introverts don't feel like there's something wrong with them. So that's why I was asking you about that, because you just have to deal with things a little bit differently. I think one of the things that was really helpful for me was at first I was trying to keep up with the extroverts in our group, and we have got some very social people that can go out every day, multiple times, multiple groups of people. You walk into a place and they start conversation with like 10 new people. So trying to like figure out what my limitations were and what I was comfortable with, and realizing that it was okay for me to say no sometimes to social ask, and I wasn't going to lose a friend over it.
That's a good
so
point.
That was something that really helped me once I started hanging out more. And then meeting people like you that I could really connect with and have that deeper connection that I think I was missing before.
That's great. Yeah, I appreciate that, hearing that as well.
So I'm glad we're
Audrey,
friends.
what are you looking forward to the most in this upcoming year, now that at least the US and in the DC area, we're hoping that we're going to be out of the pandemic soon. We're doing so much better. What is the most like immediate things that you're looking forward to? And what's next in Audrey's journey? Like, where do you see yourself? It doesn't have to be any profound answer because nobody knows what's coming in 5 years. But have you like thought about a vision for you?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think for me, one thing that I have, struggled with a little bit is I think finding balance. I have my career, and I do have a social life, but I haven't I guess done as much in some of the other things in life that I would like. And so I'm really trying to focus on sort of my life and like where I want to see myself sort of like more personally, but also just like, things like, buying my own place. And that's one thing that I really admire both of you for doing this year during COVID. That's like amazing. And so you inspired me, and I will come to you for tips. But I was listening to your the previous episode, and you were talking, Divya, about Melissa's amazing home renovations and how it's I'm amazingly impressed by by the Melissa, but it resonated with me, Divya, when you were saying that some things just feels daunting, like what you want to do, but it kind of just feels daunting to start. So things like that, home ownership and things like that, for me have been like that, and I think partly because my career is such a passion, it's easy for me to throw my life into that and spend a lot of time in that. But I'm really trying to have better balance, and so I'm looking forward to being able to accomplish some of those things this year.
So I do want to. You should definitely, and we'll hook you up. As much as I know, and Melissa knows, I do want to make a mention that Melissa invited a bunch of us. You invited us because your mom was in town and she was helping you with the renovations, and that was some work at the next level. Like, you and your mom built a whole closet from scratch. Whoa. My mind was blown.
That was like HGTV worthy.
That was exactly. And it also happened within the home makeover timeline, because her mom was there. Your mom was there, what, maybe a week or so?
2 weeks.
She was there for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the amount of work that both of you produced, it was just holy crap.
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. But I know how to use power tools now, and I am the proud owner of several different power tools. So I am happy to help, and we can totally do a project together. So you can borrow my tools.
Yes.
Are you in your free time just like, using the tools even when you don't need them because they're so fun to play with?
Not yet, but I plan on it. I'm going to try to make a wine rack or something. I don't know.
Wow. See, you guys are such badass women with power tools.
Not me. I've got a screwdriver.
I love it. I love it.
Audrey, what is the one thing that uplifts you, and what is the one thing that you would want to share with people about upliftment around you, and with other women and just people around you?
Yeah. Gosh, it is hard to pick one thing, but I would say just connecting with people, and really just doing what I can to help. And I think it's so important, I think, to just be kind. I mean, it's the world can be tough, and there's, coming from where we come from, there's a lot of challenges of, inequality, and going through the pandemic, you see there's lots of health challenges, there's so many things that in the world that exist that could bring you down. So I just feel like as a person, like, you shouldn't be adding to that negative, right? So do what you can to just be kind and bring positivity. So I think both the thing that uplifts me as well as the thing I try to do, I think, in my connections with people.
That's great. The one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation, and I always say one thing, but it's never just a one thing.
Yes.
But one of the things I'm going to take away is what Melissa also said she was going to do is finding a mentor. There have been, I think, just during the pandemic, it's given everybody some time to reflect on, you know, your current state of where your life is and where you want to go and the type of people you want to have in your life. And this show is coming out of that, need uh, from my thinking over the last so that's the one thing that I'm going to take away from you. And the other piece that you talked about is again like finding balance, which is again kind of like the same theme where you try to do too much. As soon as we were vaccinated, our social calendars opened up, and weekends have already been busy. And I have been recording episodes with all of you, and I've been spending a lot more time online because I've been setting things up. And today, after 3 hours of being online, I was like, I have to stop. I need to just find time for myself because otherwise I'm just hyper and then going. So just finding that balance and having quiet moments to think and just reflect is something which sounds like you're going through, and it's a continuous struggle and improvement. And I'm going to take that away from you to be a little bit more mindful of how I conduct my business and my personal life during the day. So I really appreciate that.
So, Audrey, I had to do this in my episode, and it was a little bit of a challenge to come up with something, but what is something that is a fun fact about you that Divya and I don't know yet that you would like to share with the entire world?
Wow. I don't know if this just totally qualifies, but I would say one fun thing that I've learned to do during the pandemic is make cocktails. And so you may or may not know a little bit about this.
I know. I was going to say, I feel like I know this already.
But before a pandemic, I didn't really know how to make anything, and so I do feel like I have expanded my my repertoire and and my collection of liquor and my ability, and it's always fun to sample. So,
do you have a signature cocktail that you make now?
Ooh, good question. Not quite yet. I should work on that. Yeah, I have a few that I like, just depending on my mood. But I'll work on that for our next events.
Melissa, what's yours?
Well, I was just going to say that when we were doing kind of our experimenting last summer, we made a perfect Audrey, inspired by Audrey, because it was a little spicy and it had a little pear, so a little sweetness. And so we'll have to see if we can remember all the ingredients and recreate it, because it was really good.
That was really good.
That was very good.
So I think that will be eventually my signature cocktail again. So
I mean, I think that'll be my signature since it's got my name.
I know. I'll have to come up with something else. But yes, that's been fun bonding with you too over making different cocktails and stuff. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I mean, and me too, because I've been drinking all of your cocktails.
Yes. And making, you definitely shake up a good gin fizz.
Are you talking about my dancing?
I mean, I was just alluding to some. There may be a video out there somewhere that you guys might want to look for.
Nobody needs to see that. Awesome. Thank you both for being on my show. Audrey, you're going to be my co-host in one of the future episodes, and you're going to bring someone that has inspired you. And similarly, like Melissa and you and me, we have a shared connection. They don't have to have a shared connection with me, but someone that you look up to and want to bring in the show for a completely different shade of conversation. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm hoping we can do that soon. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. You have been amazing. Thank you for all the love. Please share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye.